Are your people working hard but not reaching their full potential? The problem is not effort, it is development. At the Modern Observer Group, we transform workforce development into real performance. Our human-centered achievement programs help your team think better, communicate stronger, and execute at a higher level. That means higher employee engagement, stronger leadership, and measurable results across your organization. If you want a workforce that performs, leads, and delivers, it is time to invest in your people. Visit modernobserver.com and discover how the Modern Observer Group helps you build a workforce that wins.
The Iranian port blockade stands. Congress expresses support for Taiwan. Cigarette smoking hits new lows, and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. The U.S. military stopped another merchant vessel trying to break through the American blockade of Iranian ports on Saturday. The Gambia-flagged bulk carrier was disabled by U.S. aircraft in the Gulf of Oman, marking the sixth time the military has stopped a ship trying to breach the blockade. Meanwhile, President Trump is weighing a ceasefire extension with Iran that would restore free navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, a central condition of a tentative agreement reached between the two sides last week. At stake is a 60-day extension for new talks on ending Iran's nuclear program. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said on Saturday that the U.S. is more than capable of resuming war with Iran. Anonymous federal officials who spoke with the New York Times said the U.S. military has guided nearly 70 commercial ships through the strait in the last 3 weeks, though they would not identify what kind of ships were assisted. The sources said most vessels turned off their transponders to make dark passages so that they would not have to get permission from Iran or pay a toll to make the crossing. Israeli forces captured Beaufort Castle in southern Lebanon on Sunday, seizing a 900-year-old Crusader fortress that sits high above the Litani River and commands a view over much of the region. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it a dramatic stage and a dramatic shift in the policy we are leading, adding that Israel is now operating on all fronts in Syria, Gaza, and Lebanon. The operation marks Israel's deepest incursion into the country in more than 26 years. The IDF issued sweeping evacuation orders for areas south of the Zahrani River, roughly 25 miles from the border, warning that it was targeting Hezbollah infrastructure established under Iranian direction. The U.S. Congress continues to have strong support for Taiwan, even as it remains a focal point in relations with China, according to members of a delegation at the IISS Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore. There's really strong bipartisan support for Taiwan and Taiwan's security, and making sure we build on so much of the progress that has been made. Regarding the island's ability to defend itself, Senator Tammy Duckworth, Democrat of Illinois, said in a media roundtable at the dialogue. Taiwan, which asserts the right to self-government but is also claimed by China, has been in focus given remarks made over time by U.S. President Donald Trump. Trump has referred to $14 billion in arms sale to the island, which has been approved by Congress as a negotiating chip with China. Our commitment to Taiwan, it's not changing, said Representative Pat Harrigan, Republican of North Carolina, in another media roundtable at the dialogue. If you look at the work we have done with Taiwan, there can be no assertion that the United States has not been there for the island. Agitators outside the Delaney Hall detention facility in Newark, New Jersey on Saturday were seen establishing a highly organized logistics and support operation before protests began at the site. Fox News Digital observed stockpiles of masks, duct tape, medical supplies, sunscreen, hard hats, goggles, and other protective gear in containers and laid out on tables near the protest site. Many participants were seen wearing masks, and several wore respirators and helmets. When Fox News Digital asked one group if they were expecting something serious to happen, given the level of preparation and gear they were wearing, they did not answer. Video then captured one person running at and grabbing the phone Fox News Digital was using to record the scene. Mercedes-Benz could find itself shut out of the U.S. auto market, banned from making or selling new vehicles in the country under legislation that's making its way through Congress. New bipartisan legislation aimed at limiting Chinese involvement in the U.S. auto market may sweep in Mercedes-Benz unless the bill is changed or the German automaker's largest shareholder sells its stake. The bill, the Motor Vehicle Modernization Act of 2026, would prohibit automakers that have any direct or indirect equity interest by a foreign adversary government, such as China, from importing, selling, or manufacturing vehicles for sale in the U.S. Mercedes-Benz's largest individual shareholder is the state-owned Chinese automaker BAIC, formerly the Beijing Automotive Industrial Corp, with a 9.98% share. Cigarette smoking among U.S. adults reached an all-time low of 9% last year, according to findings from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. In the mid-1960s, 42% of U.S. adults were smokers. The rate has been gradually dropping for decades due to cigarette taxes, tobacco product price hikes, smoking bans, public education campaigns, and changes in the social acceptability of lighting up in public. The use of electronic cigarettes has increased among adults, but held steady in 2025 at about 7%. Another recent study shows a connection between violence exposure and increased teen use of cigarettes and e-cigarettes, suggesting a possible coping mechanism. A 3-foot meteor traveling at 75,000 miles per hour exploded Saturday afternoon, about 40 miles above northeastern Massachusetts, releasing energy equivalent to roughly 300 tons of TNT. The blast rattled windows, shook homes, and startled pets from New Hampshire to Rhode Island, with hundreds of residents reporting the boom to the U.S. Geological Survey, which quickly ruled out an earthquake. NASA says all the remnants landed in Cape Cod Bay, where the water is about 100 feet deep. The agency added that most meteorites are strongly attracted to magnets, and anyone with a boat, a magnet, and 100 feet of rope might just get lucky. Scientists say the fragments likely sank quickly, and salt water will degrade them fast, making any recovery a race against the clock. That's the Raw Naked Truth for June 1st, 2026. You can catch every episode of the Raw Naked Truth Daily News Brief, as well as our sister podcast, Carnivore Radio, with news analysis and commentary, and the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcast app, YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.